This is Miriam Raftery with the East County Magazine radio show on KNSJ 89.1 FM Descanso. And today, my very special guest is La Mesa's Mayor Mark Arapastathis. He is a lifelong La Mesa resident, a teacher, once honored as a County Teacher of the Year, and Director of the Theater Arts at La Mesa Arts Academy, known as Dr. A. He holds a doctorate in education from USD and SDSU. He served on the La Mesa City Council and headed up the La Mesa Arts Alliance before becoming mayor. And now he's running for re-election. So, Mayor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start by having you tell us what you consider to be your most significant accomplishments as mayor, or for that matter, when you were on the council before that.
I think the programs that we've initiated in the past 8 years as mayor, but even before that, but as far as public safety, building a new police station, fire station, increasing the number of public safety officers. The JPA with Heartland Fire has helped streamline a lot of what we do, and the joint use between the fire departments in Lemon Grove and El Cajon provides greater service to the people. And so those are some of the things. Also, as far as helping business, I know that, as we came out of COVID and it's been so hard on businesses and some didn't survive, that we're using the money that was given not only to help businesses that are existing and trying to relax some of the restrictions as far as outdoor dining, but creating the LEAP program, the La Mesa Entrepreneur Assistance Program, to foster new businesses and encourage new businesses with a grant program up to $20,000. And so those are some things that are seeding the garden and trying to get new businesses to grow. And so the other thing that I'm really proud of is our parks program. We have so many parks in La Mesa, and that we're renovating and improving the parks. And that goes along with beyond keeping and maintaining safe streets through public safety and through making sure the streets are safe because they're paved and that they're well lit. Having events and in promoting cultural arts in the city is important. Cities, that's part of what government needs to do, is provide activities so citizens can live not only a safe life, but to have a happy life.
Great. Well, you jumped ahead to a couple of my questions there on business and arts, but no, that's okay. But we'll just go down the list here of the issues in La Mesa. Let's start with climate change, which is an issue that, of course, is impacting the entire world and one that many cities are taking action to address. Your predecessor, I think, was the first mayor locally to sign the U.S. Mayor's Climate Change Pledge, and you've worked on a climate action plan under your leadership. Can you share, Dr. Ray, what some of the steps are that you have supported for La Mesa to do its share in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and what more, if anything, you would like to see done to help protect our environment for future generations in La Mesa, while balancing against the concerns of those who, don't want to see things go too far, be too inconvenienced by some of the steps that have been proposed?
Well, it's important to know, first of all, that the Climate Action Plan is state mandated. And so the city of La Mesa is required to adopt a climate action plan. And I was happy and proud that our city manager was able to get ahead of that before it was imposed on us, that we drafted a climate action plan, and the entire council was on board with that, and we all had input. The staff obviously did the heavy lifting. Then we hired a climate action manager to manage our climate action plan, and she's Hillary Ego, and she is managing that and making sure that we're compliant and taking the next steps. I think in La Mesa, some of the things that you're seeing around are trying to dovetail with, as technology is being created to help reduce greenhouse gas effects and make it more plausible for people to themselves reduce their carbon footprint. Electric vehicles and charging stations. The city of La Mesa is moving along with that. If you drive around, you'll see many more houses that have solar, and I think that's an enormous first step for many people. I have solar. The idea of harnessing the sun, we have it, especially it's abundant here in San Diego County, that it also is a cost saving. So even if people aren't necessarily on board with the climate action plan, they're going to be saving money. So those are some of the things that La Mesa is doing to encourage. Also, we're slowly trying to change out our fleet vehicles so they're not burning gas. My only caution is the environment isn't anything without the people in it. So
Right.
although I have friends that are, they want to take steps, I just want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that we bring everybody along. And even people that are saying that the climate action plan is too much, I think that if you talk to people and you bring them along and you show them that it's done in a reasonable way, that they can comply, they'll realize that it is helping the environment. And I said just recently, back in 1973, the Clean Water Act and then the Clean Air Act, if you drove through Los Angeles, when people say we're not really helping the climate, it's just Little Mesa. But when you drove through Los Angeles in the 70s, and my cousins lived up there, and you couldn't see the mountains, and now you drive up there and there's emission standards. And
I remember that. Yeah, I literally passed out from the smog in downtown Los Angeles, walking down the street. The paramedics were reviving me. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, years moved away. Couldn't handle the air there.
Well, human beings have actually been able to, obviously cars created all that smog, and human beings have been able to mitigate that. And to the effect, when I was in high school, sometimes we wouldn't run the mile because it was a stage 3 smog alert. So what I would say is La Mesa is moving in those steps to do what we can. We can't solve the world's problems.
Right.
We can't have everybody come to a complete stop and try, because there's counties around us, there's cities around us, and
we can't control what China or somebody does, but we control what happens here in our
own. We're taking steps that are reasonable, and when you look at our plan and compared to the rest of the cities around us in the counties, we are out in front, and we are doing the things that we need to do to not only be compliant, but to move forward to protect our environment.
Very good. Homelessness has been on the rise across our entire region, and it's often cited by residents as a top concern. Can you tell us what steps have been taken to address homelessness so far in La Mesa, and what more you hope to do if reelected to get help for these people on our streets?
Homelessness had been addressed by public safety mostly, and it impacted our police department and our fire department in a way that was sometimes not preventing them from doing their other jobs, but it did hinder that. And so the home program, Homeless Outreach Mobile Engagement, is something that we started about 24 months ago. And what we found is through research and dialogue and talking to best practices around not only our city, but around the nation, talking to people that it's worked for in Utah and Minnesota, the other cities that they've found some success, that getting people that are chronically homeless permanently housed is the goal. It's great that we have different organizations that feed people and they give them a shower. That's wonderful. That's very caring. What happens on day 2 is what we ask. So we want people to become autonomous of the government, so they're not always having to rely. I think the first thing that we've decided to do is to triage the situation. Everybody that is experiencing homelessness is not the same. Every story is not the same. There are people that have addiction, unfortunately, and they have, because of their addiction, they're starting to experience mental problems because of some of the things that they're addicted to. So every situation is different. So our clinicians go out and make contact, and the home program it's a slow process, because you can't just sweep people up, and so you have to develop some type of dialogue.
We should add there has actually been a court ruling on that cities cannot just take people off the streets and clear homeless camps.
The Boise ruling.
Ruling, unless there are shelter beds available and they're offered, and
they're compliant. People have to agree to it, and so we're trying to get more and more people. So that's one phase of it for the chronic homeless.
What is the answer for shelters? Because everyone says we want the homeless off our streets, and nobody wants the shelter next to them. So, what is the answer for that?
My answer is the county has the money. The county has the money. The county has the land. It's not land that's out in the Mojave Desert. It's right here in the county of San Diego. They have the land. They have the money. We'd like to see the county step up and present some of those solutions. Whatever the shelter is, it has to have wraparound services, or it's pointless. So that, again, that's for the chronic homeless. And some of the people that are homeless are going to have to go through treatment, and some people might have to be in a facility that deals with mental health. Then we have the next step of people that are going to be homeless, and we're working on a rental assistance program. And I told a narrative that there's families that I know through my work in the school district that have come to me that are weeks away from being homeless because of something that's happened that was unscheduled.
Right. All it could take is one expensive car repair or medical bill sometimes.
Right. And so we've been helping people with rental assistance, so they're not living in their car, and then trying to find them more affordable housing. So they're moved out of a 3-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom apartment, things of that nature, because we can capture it before it happens. There's less homeless people. The last thing is that within this next calendar year, I've talked to the city manager that I want to double our budget to having the home program. We're in a contract with Home Start in East County, and so they're looking for homes for people and trying to get them off the street. But I'd like to double the budget. And talking to the police chief, laws will still be enforced, and I want to reassure the public, because someone's homeless, they're not above the law. And so if laws are being broken and people are being put in danger, the police are going to act in that way, in a humane way. But just because you're homeless doesn't excuse some of the behaviors that people are experiencing with people that are homeless. And so the public needs to be, everyone in the public needs to be treated fairly and feel that they're safe. And so the police chief has said that in his quarterly report, pardon me, where he said, we're going to continue to enforce the laws. We're going to treat people humanely, but if you're experiencing homeless and you're breaking the law, then you're going to have to answer for that.
So speaking of policing, La Mesa, as you know, faced that devastating riot in May of 2020 after a protest over the George Floyd killing in Minnesota, and also the actions of a local police officer. And there were buildings burned and merchants looted and so forth. What steps have been taken first to heal those racial tensions underlying the incident, implement any police reforms, and also what steps have been taken, hopefully, to prevent another incident like that in the future?
I think one of the first steps was that we had new leadership. And that's not to say that the old leadership, caused any of this, but Captain Ray Sweeney was promoted to Chief Sweeney and has a clear vision on how to best have the police force engage the community and in some ways demystify what happens, but also educate people on how difficult it is to be a police officer. He has his Citizens Academy right along. The police are engaging all the time. He had many forums where he went and was very candid and sometimes heated people, but expressing their ideas and their concerns. And Chief Sweeney is a measured, thoughtful person. And so I think it starts from the chief all the way down. We created the Citizens Oversight, CPOB, and the chief is working with them. And
it's Police Oversight Board, yeah.
And so those are some steps. There's been new hires, and as the chief has been bringing people in with a clear vision that we're here to serve, the city's here to serve, the police are here to serve, but also to make sure that the public understands that what the job is. And I think I've said this from the very beginning before I was on the council, the public needs to support the police so they feel supported, because they're going to serve us better if they feel that the public is behind them. And the way to do that, the more we know about each other, it is how we're going to do that. So I think the chief comes from the chief, and that's been probably the most powerful part of that. And his captains and lieutenants all have the same vision. In addition, the more we know about each other is having more cultural and events that celebrate a greater diversity. And so
like Juneteenth that rolled out. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Like the Juneteenth celebration.
Juneteenth, but also having music festivals and having even the concerts in the park that I started. We have a diverse group of people coming to play music. And so it brings a diverse group of people into the city. And I want to assure everyone in the county that La Mesa is a welcoming place. And so those are some of the things that we're doing. This happens in education. We say this: greater access, give access to all, and it'll create diversity. And so those are the things that the police and the chief are doing.
Very good. You have been a champion of the arts with your work in community theater, as you just noted, founding the Sundays at 6 concert in La Mesa during the summers. Um, some people have called for La Mesa to improve its arts and cultural offerings for the community, such as perhaps building a larger permanent library, a new community center, or even a public community theater. La Mesa now has an Arts and Culture Commission that was established on your watch. Can you tell us what you would like to see as the priorities for enhancing arts and culture in La Mesa, whether that's any of the things we mentioned, new festivals, or something else?
Well, I'm for a new library, and I met with the Friends of the Library president, and we're looking for options. And there's a library task force. I don't know if I mean, my dream would be to have a theater. I don't know if it's plausible actually to have a full performing arts center in the city of La Mesa, but something on a lower scale that it could serve multiple purposes as part of the entire civic center renovation, I think is what I'd like to see as a hub. But the other part is that we need to offer as many programs as possible that push out into the community, into the individual parks, into individual community areas. And so I was part of the founding members of the La Mesa Arts Alliance, and we put on many different activities, but I'd like to see those things happen in every community. Of course, the village is considered kind of the center of the city. And so I'd like to see an art walk. I've been talking about that with the village,
Nice.
village association. But beyond that, North La Mesa and West La Mesa, there's strip malls and there's community gathering places and there's parks to keep having activities. So it's happening right in their neighborhood as opposed to everybody having to come to the village. Nothing against the village. I love it. But we need to push out into the neighborhoods. And so I'm connected with the arts community in San Diego, and lots of different groups have asked me. There's a group that puts on the Twain Fest in Old Town, Right Out Loud, and they've asked me about bringing it out here.
That would be great. I'm very familiar. I've interviewed some of their folks on my radio show and heard their monologues that are bringing history to life. And La Mesa, of course, had its centennial a few years ago.
Right.
They used to do a multicultural festival, in fact, that kind of stopped when they did the centennial and had all of those activities. But
and we have the blues festival. It had to stop because the Harp Festival, which was all about blues in Harry Griffin Park, had stopped because of COVID. But bring those things back. But and then the last thing is we have some public area as far as we're talking with the new formed cultural arts committee as far as murals.
As far as I didn't hear you.
Under bridges and things that don't, aesthetically don't look fantastic, but there's a good example of that as you travel into Lemon Grove from La Mesa under a bridge. It was a community offering.
Oh, the murals. Yeah. Okay. Right.
And something of that nature that obviously takes it an inane object that's usually just gray concrete and put some color on it.
Yeah, Ramona has done that. They have the Ramona Hart Murals project. Now they have them all over town, and they're really beautiful. I meant to ask after the homelessness question, but housing. The state faces a shortage of housing, especially affordable homes. And yet some residents, again, raise concerns over high rises and impacts on parking from high density projects. So what is your view on how best to balance those competing needs? Is it possible to both meet the needs of housing and affordable housing and, protect the character of our historic neighborhoods and other communities?
I think it is. We're built out in La Mesa, but clearly there's going to be developments that come in, and under density bonus, I don't think that we've done the best job educating the public on what density bonus is. And never want to use the term hands tied. We're going to follow the law. And so when projects come in, and I'll give you an example, Little Flower Haven came in, and there was a lot of pushback on Little Flower Haven. It had been an assisted living project run by the Catholic Church, and it was given up because they couldn't afford to run it anymore. And so it was going to become apartments. And there was a big pushback, but it was density bonus, and we were trying to explain to the public. And I was learning along because density bonus was something that was just coming on board as far as in the city of La Mesa. It's been a California law.
Correct.
But explaining to people what our rights are as a city council as far as approving or denying projects. And projects can come in, and because they get density bonus, they're allowed certain waivers.
Less parking and things,
less parking, higher many stories and the height restrictions and things of that nature. And so With that project, I felt we worked with the developer very well, and
Yeah, a
obviously,
nice facade, some design guidelines in
and
there
they
that,
kept
yeah.
that one facade, and it really
Mhm.
does maintain the integrity of that building. In fact, I just told the story. I had a friend that had come back after 20 years, and they didn't even notice because it had been done so well,
Yeah.
and all of the foliage outside. And so I think the balance is that we need to work with developers, and developers need to come in and do outreach. And I try to encourage them. Mr. Fair, when he was doing the development up in the Eastridge area, he went out and he said, well, what do I need to do? I said,
He
knock on
did.
every door and talk to
Yeah.
everybody and sit down and demystify this. And so people don't think that their area is going to be taken over
I
by high
remember
rise.
that. I think I
Show them
interviewed
what it
him,
can
and
do.
is that the one where they came up with the multi-generational housing concept? And
It's a area, it's where the dinosaur was.
yes, up
Anyway,
on the hill there. Yeah, that's
so they're
right. I
working on
remember.
that right now. And in the end,
Mhm.
not one comment was filed during that
Yeah, no, I do remember he
hearing.
went out and he found out people, a lot of them wanted a place where they could live and bring maybe an elderly parent in
Exactly
with
right.
them, or a
So I
kid,
think it's
you know.
important that the developers do their due diligence as opposed to just dropping in. And so we do have developers that are willing to do that, and that they come in and they have community meetings. And so the Jefferson project was a density bonus. There was very little that the city could do,
The one
but
over on
they met
Baltimore.
with the people that live up on El Capitan, and they met with other people as far as what the color should look like, and that
Hmm.
it shouldn't be the first iteration of that. 12 years ago was going to be 19
I
stories.
remember Park Station, they were calling it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that the balance that we're looking for is, of course, we need more affordable homes so people can live here, because and someone said, why should people be allowed to come out here and live in La Mesa? And I said, it's not that. We have people that were grown up here, and they're moving back to care for their parents, and they're not, their parents are in a facility and they can't afford to live back in their hometown. And so those are some of the things. And obviously, when you don't have homes, it leads to homelessness. But I think there's a balance, and trying to always bring people together is what I guess is my message here. Is
Yeah.
for whatever we're talking about, trying to bring people together and sit and listen to each other, as opposed to folding your arms and saying, I don't like this and you don't like me, but listen to one another. So in this case, I always encourage developers, and even sometimes when I haven't met them, I outreach to them. I say, I know that's a density bonus project. I know that we have very little oversight in this regards, but you want the community to want this. You don't want them to fight against it.
Right. The businesses in La Mesa were hit by kind of a double whammy. First COVID lockdowns, and I think a week after those started to lift and some could reopen, the riot came along. You started to mention some of what's been done to help the businesses. I know your opponent's been running on a pro-business platform as a realtor, but I wanted to give you a chance to elaborate a little bit. Is there anything more that you're working on, or that you think should be done to assist the business community in not only the village, but throughout La Mesa?
So I'm going to say our new focus in La Mesa is a culture of yes. It comes from the city manager all the way down, customer service training. So when businesses have to engage the city, that instead of getting no's and doors closed, their solutions are being created. So I'll start
Mhm.
with outdoor dining. When COVID we're in the midst of all the lockdowns, and
Yeah.
businesses were coming and asking to use public right away, and can we set up something that to have outdoor dining. The city was accommodating. I know other cities have tightened their restrictions, and I heard stories in San Diego at different restaurants, and
Oh yeah, they
so
made it real
we really
expensive.
have.
People wanted to keep it, and most of them
Right.
didn't. It's
I
just prohibitive.
I sometimes go to Redford's Diner, and they were having a heck of a time with it. So
Hmm.
we try to relax those restrictions and work with businesses and
Hmm.
make sure it was still safe for the patrons, but
Hmm.
to allow them to expedite and allow people to have outdoor dining as fast as they could. We're still working in that direction to try to
Hmm.
make all these things that we initiated permanent.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
say COVID is still circulating out there, and I know when I go places all the time, I hear from people, I'll go, but only if we can eat outside. So I think it's nice to have those options for people that care about that.
But we also know that people, it was something that people want to have as permanent, even if we're out of COVID. that it
Yeah.
was a nice, as far as atmosphere, it gave them
Weather.
more
Yeah.
seating. And so that's one part. That's for the restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
As far as reducing the cost for business licenses, we took that on, and we're reducing some of the costs. And then the LEAP program is one way that you can.
What is that? Tell me about that.
LEAP is La Mesa Entrepreneur Assistance Program. And so
Mhm.
if you have the idea for a new business, that you come in and you can apply for grant money up to
Wow.
$20,000. You don't have to pay it back. You also go through an education program. And so there's assistance as you're going through. So you're not just dumped in. So your business will
That's
be
great.
successful. The goal of this is that the business won't fold. And so you have, you take some classes, and
Mhm.
that you have other business people that have been
Wow.
successful that are still in, that you have the ability to conference with them and talk to them as far as
Great.
advertising and staffing and location and signage and everything that you can imagine. In addition to that, we have the business improvement program, where we have money to fix small things in front of your business. You need a new awning, or the sign needs to be repainted, or the front of the aesthetics of your business. And
Yeah.
so we have that.
Does
And
that help
then
attracts new business to an area if the place
it does,
looks
because
good
when
rather
you
than
can
run
improve your
down? Yeah.
business, it
Mhm.
makes it look nicer. And obviously, and that
Sure.
might not be money that you have within your budget, because costs are going up, and because insurance goes up, and all the costs
Sure.
associated with business. And then lastly, we have for our downtown area, money for if someone wants to put on an activity. It could be a cultural activity, it could be whatever the kind of thing, the program they want to put on. If a business wants to sponsor something,
Mhm.
there's money in the budget so they can apply for that grant. In
Nice.
addition to all of that, we have a very thriving, under the leadership of Mary Kennedy, we have a thriving La Mesa Chamber of Commerce, and we have our La Mesa Village Association. Both are thriving and encouraging advertising of business, and they have events too.
Mary, is that Mary England at the chamber?
Mary England,
England,
yes.
yeah. Mhm. Right. Very good. The LEAP program, was that a pilot in La Mesa? I hadn't seen any
It
of our other
is.
local cities do that.
I worked with the city manager and assistant city manager, Carlo Tomaino, and we were using ARPA funds from COVID funds. And that's what we decided to do with a portion of those funds. I was on that subcommittee,
Yeah.
and we were looking for ways to help business that wasn't just throwing money everywhere, but have a targeted way to help the businesses. Now, when we first received COVID money, half of it went to rental assistance, because we didn't want people to become homeless.
Mhm.
Half of it went to the businesses. And then in addition to that, when we received more money, we assisted businesses again, because businesses that were really hurting because of the lack of customers, but also because of the shutdown.
Very good. Some misleading mailers have gone out, actually in several East County races, including, unfortunately, La Mesa's council and mayoral races. So I wonder if you could clarify for voters who your most significant endorsements are from, since that's been, a point of deception, frankly, in some of the flyers that have gone around. Not your mailers, we should make clear, but some of the others that have
I
gone out by
understand.
independent groups and some candidates.
I say I'm endorsed by the voters of La Mesa. I've had over 1,000 people that are residents say,
Mhm.
you can use my name and put it on a list, and that have endorsed me. As far as larger groups, this is a nonpartisan race.
Yes,
The
of
San
course.
Diego Democrats have endorsed me
Mhm.
based on my work in the past, and my work in the future.
Mhm.
Endorsed by Dr. Akilah Weber, and I'm endorsed by many teachers in the city of La Mesa. And endorsements are great. What I promise, and I'll keep reiterating to people, is what you've seen, all of it's false. I've never taken money from big oil. I have never diverted ARPA money for my own good. I've never worked with taken money from developers to allow development, or done
Yeah.
anything of that nature.
And I'll add, we did some fact checking on some of those claims, the financial donation claims, and you're right, those appeared to be completely false claims that were made in some of these mailers.
And I'll just say this, and I've been real clear with everybody that wants to help me.
Mhm.
I'll never say anything negative about anyone that's running. It's not because of a political thing. I've spent my entire career, my entire life, talking about honesty and integrity. and it's binary. You can't say I'm going to have integrity on Wednesday, then Friday send out a mailer that and disassociate yourself with it.
Right.
So I would never be able to continue being the person I am if I knew that I had instigated something that was completely false and completely negative. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to always be positive. I'm going to talk about myself. I'm not going to talk about the other people, and let the voters decide. And however it finally turns out, I'll be satisfied with that as long as I stay true, because I've led my life with honesty, integrity, and that's what I do lead my life with, and I'll continue to do that.
Very important. Where can people get more information on your candidacy? Do you have a website or
I do have a
social media?
website. It's votedra.com and votedra.org. Pardon me, votedra.org.
Okay.
And that has general information about me, and of course anything on the city website shows you all the things that I've been involved with regarding the city. When you go to the city website, it has all of our programs, community service, what's going on with the park, all the development that's going on. So if you want to see, what we've been doing the past 8 years, our city website lays it out for you too. And I appreciate, when people look for press releases, I appreciate the articles you've written. There's some things in the UT. And so you search, Rapistathis isn't a very common name. So when you search it, lots of things pop up about it.
Right. There you go. I'm going to let you have the final word today, but Mayor Rapistathis or Dr. A, what else would you like our audience to know about you and your candidacy for re-election as mayor of La Mesa?
That I've been serving the citizens of La Mesa since I was a child. I've been volunteering, and that's the way I see this job, is to serve the citizens of La Mesa, and to say that, I enjoy, or I love spending time with my family in the city of La Mesa. I've been here my entire life. I've never left La Mesa. So I'm 56 and I was born and raised here and went to all the schools here. And so I think that I really have a good understanding of what the city's about. And as it's changing and new people are here, I'm out in the city meeting people and listening to them. I'm always willing to listen to everybody. And I think the biggest contribution I have on that respect is trying to educate people, especially when there's misconceptions about things that are happening in the city, and maybe they hear something on social media or that from a friend and it's inaccurate, trying to let them know what the truth is, not just about the election, but everything that's happening in Mesa. And the last thing I'm going to say is, I care about the city. That's why I stayed here. That's why I'm giving my time to serve. And I'd like to serve. This will be my last 4 years if I'm reelected, because I'll be termed out. But I want to do it because I want to serve the city. I feel a duty to serve the city that's been so good to me. And I love La Mesa.
Well, very good. I want to thank you so much. I know you're a very busy person, for taking the time to join us today on the East County Magazine radio show on KNSJ 89.1 FM Descanso.
Thank you for having me.